Welcome back to We Are Live. It's Chris Denman, Travis Farrell, the great Chris Gardner on the video machine. He's an expert. I can tell if he pops up his
You're going to pop up on me, Gardner?
Yeah, how's that going to work now?
Yeah, that's why I'm not going to go.
Yeah, you're not going there.
It's another thing. I will let it go.
We have a professional in studio, a real professional, Alexis Zotos, from KMOV and the Meet St. Louis podcast. What's up, Alexis?
Not much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you were just checking out the half-finished offices, and we've got our to-do wall. What's the most impressive thing you saw in there?
So I actually didn't read. Well, I did see buy business cards. So that's a good one.
Yeah, sure.
As you can see, it's still on the not done side.
Not done.
Yeah.
But I
Welcome to
like that
Midcoast
idea.
Media. Yeah.
I like the Post-it wall.
It sure looks good,
Yeah.
right? Just see how many actually get done. Alexis, you've got the podcast. Congratulations on 100,000 downloads.
Yeah, it
was
exciting to wake up to yesterday. Our producer, JJ, texted me the champagne glass emoji and the screen grab of 100,000 listens, which
very nice.
Is just really an exciting thing.
Yeah, and it has to be nice too because we see you reporting, running all over town. I was laughing one time. I thought it would be weird if I texted you or tweeted you. I remember I was stuck going to the airport and it was terrible weather, and obviously you were in the van getting ready to go to some horrific something, and I was like, I'm right next to you all in traffic right now, and I bet our lives are going to be so much different in 5 minutes. You're out covering crazy things. And
always. There's just never a dull day in this business. You never know what it's going to bring.
Did they send you out in the weather truck? Did they tell you to go cover the traffic?
St. Louis's #1 storm reporter.
So I actually love being in the Storm Mode Silverado. It's the best assignment when it comes to
What
weather.
is it called again? I'm sorry. Check that again.
It's the Storm Mode Silverado.
Storm Mode.
Invoice Chevrolet, please.
So, no, it's the best assignment because you are inside the truck.
Right.
So, you're sitting in the seat, you're warm, you're listening to your music in between your live shots. Whereas then the rest of the crews are standing on an overpass.
Hey, loser!
Yeah, I get to not be pelted with ice inside of the truck. So that's the best weather assignment. But I don't want to do it anymore this season. I'm
I'm about to say.
I am too, Travis. I can't do it anymore. We have you just took a picture in there, and the lighting's amazing, right?
Yeah,
in our office,
so gorgeous.
it is too. And you all can check out. Can you say who your guest is for the podcast?
Yeah, we're talking to Chris over with the Kranzberg Arts Foundation.
4th floor.
Yeah, it makes my day really easy to go from here to go to there. It's nice.
Knock it out. No, we've got the great lighting in there, but I can't deal with this gray sky stuff anymore.
That sunshine yesterday was just gives you life.
It does.
It really does.
So you're here, and we're talking about getting ran all over town reporting, right? Yeah. You went to college in Southern California.
I did.
I was recently out there. I stayed at a hotel across from the campus where you went,
nice.
So I can't
the
imagine
Radisson?
Probably, yeah.
Well,
I
it's
think
funny
so.
because the Radisson, which was across the street from the University of Southern California, my freshman year, they didn't have enough dorms, and people stayed in the Radisson. That was freshman housing. And I had a friend, Tori, who lived there, and I'm like, that's so random. You're living in the Radisson for a year.
That happened at Mizzou a little bit, I think, but they would just push them over to the smaller colleges' dorms that were unoccupied.
Now it's it's transformed. The campus looks nothing like it did when I went there. It is just, it was gorgeous when I went, but it is even more gorgeous, and they've expanded for blocks and blocks. And
right.
Describe the atmosphere a little bit at USC, because a
Best
lot
4
of
years
great,
ever.
I'm going to say amazing alums have, of course, come out of
Absolutely.
USC, O.J. Simpson, but specifically, but no, tell me about your time at USC. What was your mindset?
Every time we go to LA for whatever it is, or even Southern California, it ends up being one of these things where so why don't we live here? What is it? Man, 4 years of college there.
It was so fun. I only wanted to go to school in California. Everyone asked me, as a journalist here in St. Louis, why didn't you go to Mizzou? And I actually didn't go into college doing journalism. So that was why I didn't go to Mizzou, but also I just wanted to go to California. It was my dream. I only applied to schools in California.
Nice.
I didn't want to abandon my family, but I kind of just needed to get out of St. Louis.
And by the way, folks at St. Louis, it's okay to go other places.
Absolutely. I actually highly recommend it because it has really made me appreciate my time back in St. Louis.
Right.
So went out to California, went to USC. It was amazing. Really, the ability to call your dad in January, he's dealing with the snow, and I'm like, I'm laying on the beach in Santa Monica. What's up, Dad?
What do your parents do here in St. Louis?
My dad is a lawyer and my mom is a real estate agent.
Very nice. So
Yeah.
they were probably they were confident, and you finished school, so that's
did.
even better. Look
That
at
was
that.
great.
Look at that's a
That-
big move.
Yeah.
So they're probably excited that their daughter's going on this endeavor at a famous school
Absolutely.
with unique.
I think my dad
experiences
was
all over the
very
place.
concerned when I said I wanted to go to USC. Like, how the heck am I going to pay for that?
Right.
He actually tells this story when I was in high school. Went to Ladue High School, and
Good
gotta give the
basketball
shout
team.
out.
Hang
Go
on.
Rams.
Yeah.
Get a second question I don't have to ask. Yeah, go ahead.
And I was on the homecoming court, and at our school, like, you have like a little parade where you like go around in a convertible around the track, and they announce like, oh, Alexis would like to go to USC and study communications. And my dad always tells the story that he was sitting in the stands being like, oh God, I wish he hadn't told everybody that, because I don't know if I can pay for that.
I'm on the hook for that bill now. Good God.
Your dad's
So,
like,
yeah.
how do you feel about Cape Girardeau next
Right,
year?
yeah. So went there. It was great. I actually really, I mean, it's silly, but in some ways things so work out for a reason.
Right.
I was admitted as a spring admit, so I didn't start until January.
Okay.
Which at the time when I got that letter, I was devastated. I'm like, what? All my friends are starting college in September. Like, what do you mean I can't start until January?
Right.
But it was the best thing that ever happened because I started in January. I didn't rush a sorority at first, and
Right.
so I needed things to do to meet friends. And the TV station on campus was looking for volunteers, and I was like, that's kind of interesting because originally I went out there thinking I'm going to be an actress. That's my jam.
Right.
I'm going to go on to win an Oscar one day. And
Still could.
Could. I like that I won an Emmy though for journalism.
There you
so
go.
Shout out myself.
We don't have any Emmys.
One day.
We'll steal
One
one, Chris.
day.
We will
Okay.
just steal
All right.
one.
We'll look into that.
But yeah, so I volunteered at the TV station and I really fell in love with it.
Right.
And I switched majors and never looked back.
If you could do it over again, and obviously you've had great success in
Mm-hmm.
it, knowing where media is now, do you think that's a more difficult decision to make if you're going into college thinking about maybe getting involved with the media?
I think it's the best time ever because there's so much that we can do with media.
Right.
I mean, even I don't remember, 8 years ago when I was in college, I mean, this wouldn't have been something I would
True.
have thought about. I mean,
Right.
a podcast, I mean, that would have been like, what?
Right.
So I just think there's so many different avenues. You're not going to necessarily have an easy time going the very traditional route because
Right.
that traditional route is changing.
Mm-hmm.
TV stations aren't going anywhere, but they are adapting and they are changing. And I think it's kind of an exciting time to be a part of that, to kind of help shape the future of television news and news in general.
How has the old guard, if you will, you kind of sort of mentioned that, how have they adjusted since your time, of course, being in St. Louis, being a part of KMOV, how have they adjusted to this new media and how difficult has it been for the folks who have been around for
Sure.
a long time who are now seeing this sudden shift in the way we get our news?
I've seen it too. Like I personally, like you see it, and it's like how tough would that? I mean, we laugh about adapt or whatever. It's like, imagine if you had this job that now that you thought you were busting your tail at, working at for 20, 30 years, and then all of a sudden people come in, pull the rug out, and be like, you've been skating by with some kind of that's just not logical job anymore.
Well,
It's got to be devastating.
challenging
Yeah.
because, our day is not just turn a story for the 5 and 6 o'clock
Right,
newscast anymore.
right.
It is tweet, Facebook Live, Instagram Live all day long throughout your story. And I think one of the biggest challenges of the news business, I was telling this to a career fair I did a couple weeks ago. Sports I think is a good example. You are not going to wait until the 10 o'clock news tonight to find out what the score of the Blues game
You're right.
is. You're not. Like, you've already gotten an app push or an
Right.
alert from ESPN being like, yo, the Blues hopefully won. I don't know
Right.
if they're playing today,
Right.
but whenever they play a game.
Right.
So how do we make then our news still relevant, which is why we've got great sports reporters who are getting those interviews, that they're providing you content that you're not necessarily going to get from a push alert from ESPN or, on Twitter, a
Right.
score update. So it's the same way with news. If there's breaking news, we want to get that information to you as fast as possible.
Right.
If there's a giant fire, like that warehouse fire a year and a half ago, you're not going to
Which one? I feel like there's like one every 6
giant
months.
one.
Right.
And you're not going to all day look at that smoke and be like, oh, I got to turn on the news at 10 o'clock tonight to find out what
that's
happened.
about,
No,
right.
You're going to we're going to be Facebook Living, we're going to be tweeting. But at 10, we are going to provide you more information and more context, and that's why it's still vital for people to watch them.
How do you feel personally about the breaking aspect of things? Believe it or not, we will get hit up. Us, little old us, will get hit up and be like, "Do you want to break this? This would be good for you guys or whatever." And it's one of those things where it's like, not really our lane. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I don't know. We kind of have fun with people and don't really pin people up against a wall per se. What do you think about the race to be first and then misinformation with that? And because there has to be two colossal forces coming at you, right? Because that could, I don't know, net you a ton of followers, net you a bunch of credit nationally. What are your thoughts on, I guess, the whole process?
We would rather be last and be right. I mean, we really would. It is a motto that we have in our newsroom, and I think in most good newsrooms, you really, obviously everyone wants to be first.
Sure.
You want to get that information out to the public as quickly as possible, but it is absolutely our responsibility to ensure that we have the most facts that we can. Right. I mean, sometimes those are still going to change. If you get to a breaking news scene, sometimes we might not know, what the heck this warehouse fire is, but I can tell you, hey, I can see with my eyes there is a giant fire. You're probably seeing this smoke all the way out in Chesterfield or St. Charles, but we're still working to get details on what's inside, if anyone's hurt, what the situation is. Right. So there's this constant battle of getting information out to the public, but also making sure that we get it right. And attributing is one of the biggest things. So information changes from law enforcement, from the fire department. So it's important for us to always say, this is what police are saying now. And, we can always preface that, this is still a breaking and fluid situation. Things might change, but we're giving you guys the most up-to-date, accurate information as we know it.
That's so important, too, because you think about it. You say you are dealing with a disaster, even oh, hey, yeah, she's out talking in front of a burning building. Somebody's uncle might have just passed away. Totally. And you don't want to be, you have to handle that information very carefully. Right. And that we joke about, hey, you're a real reporter. You have consequences. You do. And you particularly, you're in your hometown for a big-time TV station. And those jobs are few and far between. You don't want to lose that opportunity.
And and that's the other thing. I think that is why it is still incredibly valuable to have reputable TV stations or newspapers in our town that you follow on social media, that you read and that you watch. Because really anybody with a phone can go up to a fire and turn on their Facebook Live and start reporting. And there are consequences because they don't necessarily have the ethical training that we do. I mean, we're really careful of trying not to show a license plate on a deadly car scene because, or even of something that's really identifiable about the car because, I mean, their mom or their wife or their dad.
I recognize that plate.
So that's a good point. We try to be really careful with that. We don't identify people that have died until it's been released either by the family saying my brother died, or the police tell us this person has been identified, because we don't want someone to find out the worst piece of news on the news.
Of course.
That's a responsibility that we have.
There's also this balance of access. And I know we talked about this with Chris Davis of KSDK a couple of weeks ago, but there's a fine line of I guess when you have to cover political officials or you have to cover someone inside the police department, I would imagine you're going to obviously need those folks at maybe some point along the way for a future story. At the same time, you don't want to tip your hand and you still want to be as objective as possible. How difficult is that to balance? Because I would imagine if you cover too many negative stories about an official or a department. There's a version of that with us. Sure, absolutely.
We do events and things like that. And it's like, boy, would I love to roast somebody for doing something really stupid, but it's self-preservation to a point, too.
Absolutely. And I was actually just listening to your guys' episode with Chris, and Chris is such a good guy, and we see each other out on
I heard you guys were rivals.
We if I got $1 for every time I hear the Anchorman joke of oh, do you guys fight in the back alley? I swear I'd be the richest human.
As we look on at Champ Kind on our wall.
So, sure. Yes, no, we're all
I think you'd take Chris. I'm going to be honest.
I probably could. I am the original Ginger.
That is very true.
And you're from the mean streets of Ladue.
Absolutely.
He grew up soft and marmalade and down the south. He'd be like, what? Did you just hit me with a jab? That's the Ladue Cross. How many fights do you think have happened in Ladue in the last 20 years? 7?
I don't know.
Total?
Maybe more. I mean, I do think
Half of those at the middle school, maybe?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I actually
Let us play through.
Sorry.
That's probably the only close we've had to conflict. We're trying to get to the ninth green.
You know, I don't care for that attitude, mister.
Well, I was at the police department recently for they actually had a robbery in Ladue, which is pretty rare. And,
Jewel thief?
No, it was a gas station armed robbery.
It's not funny at all.
It's not, but everyone was okay. But I was talking to one of the sergeants at the police department. He's like, "Oh yeah, I remember you. You used to live over on this street, and I remember breaking up a party at your house." I'm like, "Oh God, if that's what you remember in like a 10, 11-year span is like the party you broke up at my house." Sorry, Dad.
Awesome.
Your dad's a regular listener. Yeah.
Absolutely. He wouldn't have a single clue how to listen to this. But yeah, I just thought that was really funny of like, okay, that's you remembered a party 10 years ago. But getting back to your point of access and that relationship we have with these people it is important, but at the end of the day, you know, we have a job to do, and our job is to cover the story. And if it means that we might be blackballed for a little bit, I mean, there have been people who are like, I'm not going to do an interview with Alexis anymore because she asked me too many tough questions. But you know what? That's my job.
Of course.
And we're going to keep doing that. I mean, that is very much important at our station, that idea of watching out for you. You know, most people don't get a chance to question their elected officials.
Yeah.
They don't get to
Very
question
true.
the governor or the police chief. And so
Former governors?
Former governors or current governors.
Right.
They don't really get to ask them questions. And I mean, the governor story, I mean, that was an excellent example. I mean, Lauren Traeger took so much heat on that story for breaking that story.
Oh, wow,
but
yes.
she is an incredible journalist.
Right.
And she knew that it was going to cause, I mean, a major, I don't think she understood. I don't think we knew that
How big it was going
to go, but we knew it was going to be big. And she pushed through and she did that story. And, you know, I think obviously as a state, you know, we've seen how a piece of journalism can really impact the future of your entire state.
I find it funny, like they'll make fun of me here at the office, like there will be breaking news on Twitter. It feels like every half hour.
Sure.
So for me, it's like,
breaking
yeah,
all the
everything's
time.
breaking. And I'm like, I'm overwhelmed at times. I'm like, this is too much
Breaking news and announcements online are my favorite things. Like, I have an announcement. I've decided we're going to move 10 minutes away. I just want everybody to know.
We're inundated with so much information all the time. And I've
Sure.
always wondered, the folks on the end trying to get the story, how much stress does that take on you personally, as far as, especially here in St. Louis, you have to cover some very tough
It's a
stories.
small, big city.
Yes. And so how do you handle having to try to obtain all that information, and then when it's time to clock out, to just completely separate yourself from what you just covered? Because there are some serious stories that take place almost every night here in St. Louis, heartbreaking stories. And I've
Absolutely.
always wondered, for me as the audience member, I'm like, this is heartbreaking. I can't imagine the people having to cover and put a microphone in this mother's face or this
Right.
father's face, how difficult it is for them, especially when the lights are off and everyone's back in their van and going back to your own life.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an emotional job. And I mean, there are times where I will go home and cry or things like, I mean, because I'm a human and
Of
I'm
course.
impacted by the sadness, and even more so when you're talking to these mothers, you know, it's heartbreaking. And, you know, in some ways it's my job, and I'll do this one day and then the next day I'm on to something else. But there are certain stories that always stay with you, and there are interviews that stay with you. And sometimes it is hard to turn it off. I think part of that comes with the job and with experience,
Right.
and like almost self-preservation.
Yep.
You know, every night when I get off the news, I almost always call my mom, and my mom is like my number one fan. She watches
Right.
me every night. And
Isn't that great?
That's awesome.
honestly, she's probably going to be upset that I didn't tell her about this, and she's going to be watching. Sorry, Mom.
She can
It's not real
subscribe.
TV.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to.
I'll
worry.
share it with her later.
Right.
And so the number one thing she always says is like, "Oh my God, that's the saddest story ever. How did you cover it? How did you do it?" And sometimes I do feel like I'm a little nonchalant about it.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, okay, well, it was my job. Like, I did it.
Right.
But I almost feel like you have to do that a little bit. And then I go home, my fiance doesn't watch the news at all, doesn't know like
Probably
what
smart.
the heck
Probably
is going on.
Probably a good thing for your relationship.
It probably is. But sometimes I'm like, what? You need to like be a little bit like, don't you want to know something?
Would it be funny if he critiqued you every time you went home? You're like, ooh, you looked a little off on that one
Oh,
angle.
my mom does sometimes.
Does she?
Nice.
She'll tell me like, oh, you weren't wearing any lipstick. And I'm like, I know, I was running around like a crazy person.
I was told by my mom to make sure we get our coffee mug sponsored because she watches the video
See, I
stream, and I was like, thank you so
I
much.
should have brought my KMOV coffee mug.
Next time.
This
you
is
can
my
do it.
really warm. It keeps my coffee really warm, so I can have it all day. But yeah, I mean, it comes with like a self-preservation aspect, and I think it's why it's really important to have friends in the media world.
Right.
You know, to be able to go and kind of just talk about, like, wow, we saw a dead body today. Like,
Right.
that's not really a conversation you can have with most
anybody.
people.
Right, you're right.
And so I do think that that's really important. And I realized that in my first job, I worked in Knoxville.
Yeah, I wanted to get to that too, because out of college, like your media offerings, I'm sure you come out bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. You're like, I'm going to take everything by storm. My favorite things are hearing salary offers to new TV.
14,000 to move to Knoxville. This sounds good.
Wait. We'll provide you a host family, and there's only 3 men in their 50s that live there that are single, and you as a female can rent half a room and share a bunk bed with 2 of them.
Yeah.
It is crazy, but it is part of the job, and it is something you are basically
Part of the come up. Yeah.
Taught in college. You know, you are going to start small, and really you want to, because you are going to make those mistakes in those first couple of years,
right?
And you really want to make them in a smaller
area.
market. Like, I would not have wanted
point.
to start it in St. Louis and like made a fool of myself and then been like, okay, you need to leave, lady.
Right.
So I applied to 60 TV stations when I graduated.
Oh my God.
At the time, it was.
I can't even count to 60.
Right?
Oh my
We were sending out
goodness.
DVDs still, and my Thanksgiving break.
That's pretty high tech.
That is.
Yeah.
I sent out 60 DVDs to stations, and it took a while to start hearing back from people. And now, I mean, you just send like YouTube link. You know, I don't think anyone sends DVDs anymore.
She's out hustling in the Del Mar Loop, handing people her
I
mix,
probably still
her
have a
mixtape,
bunch of my like first reel on a DVD somewhere. I should.
Could we get one of those? We'll put it up in the studio.
Actually, I think it's on YouTube. And so, yeah, I applied all over the place. I mean, I really wanted to stay, you know, somewhat south. I'm not a big fan of the cold, so I really wasn't looking anywhere above, you know, really nothing farther north than St. Louis. And one of the first job offers I remember I got, they didn't want to fly me out. They were just like, here's the job offer. It's $18,000 is the salary. And I was like, what? Like, how do you live on that? And
you can't like go bartend usually, probably, right?
A lot, and unfortunately, a lot of people have second jobs when they start off in this business because, I mean, the pay is still not great. This is not like, you know, no one's making
Doug Vaughn money. You can say it out loud. You're not making Doug Vaughn money. Just put that out there. Just say it.
I'm not. I'm definitely not. But, you know, you don't get into this job for the money. Like, absolutely
Well, you
not.
see that, like, even with your example, like, he does radio 5 days a week, too.
Yeah, that's true.
He has 2 full-time jobs.
Right.
Yeah.
So you do. But my first job ended up being in Knoxville. It was one of those situations where I actually turned down a couple of other job offers, which is terrifying when you're right out of college and you get a job offer. And to then be like, I think I can get something better. To know that like knowledge and have that ability to be like, let me hold out a little bit is really scary. I was lucky. I graduated. I was able to move back home for 2 months while I job hunted.
Okay.
So yeah.
That sounds like a perfect setup. Like Knoxville, like right side is a college.
It was awesome, and it was a job that wasn't really an out of college job. They had never. I think they had maybe hired one other person before me out of college because it really is a medium-sized market.
Right.
But when I went to USC, we had a TV station on campus that was totally student-run. We did a half-hour newscast every day. So I had way more experience than someone typically out of college because we had that. And we even went live during our newscast, which most people, when they get out of college.
USC, too. Like, just the random people that could stroll through your studio, by the way.
The Trojan family is a real thing, and that alumni network is amazing.
I've noticed.
Hang on, let me text Will
I've seen
Ferrell.
it in work. Yeah, I've seen it in
me
action,
and
and
Will.
it's we were even talking. Ryan Coogler, a USC guy, and like that line, he did a movie, a little small film called Black Panther about a year ago.
Familiar.
But no, just to see even that small, the
big
film
deal.
network, So,
Absolutely.
the film and TV is it's amazing. You just see it all over the place.
It's crazy. And it did help me get that first job. My news director at the time had worked in LA, and he knew my, our advisor at USC. And she was able to convince him, like, yeah, take a chance on her. I know she's out of college, but she'll
That's
be able
awesome.
to do the job.
That's huge to have that
It
support.
was.
That's huge.
And Knoxville was amazing. I made, the best of friends because you move to a city. I mean, I never.
And you're the same age as most of the people there,
absolutely.
too.
It was a college town.
So that's perfect.
It was so fun.
Now,
I loved it.
Dead serious question here, and we do this. Travis has a few dialects he uses depending on the person
I
he's
do.
speaking
That's
to,
very true. Good point.
and the affiliation of which they have. I can drop into a southern accent if need be. Did you?
Yes.
You hicked
I
it up.
got a
You
little,
hicked it up.
I did get some y'alls.
Yeah, some
You did, and I bet you tested it too. You're like, I'm gonna
I
try
actually
this
really
out.
love the word y'all. Like it just flows better than like you guys. I mean, like I hate to use the you guys.
Do you know how many pearls are being clutched in Ladue right now?
Y'all is just
That's
such a
just
good
sickening for your parents to hear this.
But here's the thing, you can't really develop too much of an accent because again, on the news, you're trying every day to speak as clearly and eloquently as possible. So
The Midwest thing's still kind of the standard for journalism, right?
Totally.
I do love, like, there's Midwest, but then there's also, like, South St. Louis. Like, you can't, if you watch The Office, now watch it back through knowing where Phyllis is from Lime, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
Every time she says far or
Yeah.
whatever, I love that
there
part.
are
but-
words that I have really tried to get out of my vocabulary over the years. I still say like what do you call what you sleep on?
He's a problem in his own. He would call a pillowcase a pillow sheet. He would.
I call it pillow.
He's got.
I do call it.
He's
I
got
need to replace
problems.
my
Alexis.
pillowcase.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you
What would
say
you sleep
it?
on? A pillow?
Okay, I say pillow. Like I like.
Hello. Where'd the E come from?
I like how I was really condescending with my answer too. It's like a pillow. Where are you gonna go? I thought there was no option for you to say anything different.
Yeah.
I completely understand.
Hello.
No, when
Do
And
you
I
wash
just-
your clothes?
No, I don't wash my
You don't
clothes.
wash, yeah, I'm a wash
I
guy.
do not wash my clothes.
and I sometimes earn my clothes. I have to earn them.
I literally had to think of what you were
I was like,
trying
I have to.
say.
Yeah, sometimes when they're wrinkled, I have to earn my clothes.
Listen, Alexis, this isn't a cultural thing. He's just got problems. He's got a.
Well, and even last week, I was saying Illinois, and my photographer was like, "You mean Illinois?" I'm like, "Yeah, Illinois." And he's like, "No, it's Illinois." And I was just like, "Oh God, what? What am I saying?" So yeah,
That
there's a thing.
That is outstanding.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you work your way through Knoxville. Eventually, you end up back here.
Yeah.
I do have a question.
Okay.
So you're doing the podcast again. Meet St. Louis. You can get it. Stitcher link is on our page. You can get it anywhere,
You can
basically.
get it, anywhere the podcasts are listened to.
Absolutely, and it's a great idea to you get to see basically the fun culture side of things, and your
Absolutely.
personality suits it perfect. So,
Thanks.
if you were to do a more serious version of a podcast with a St. Louis controversial figure from the last year, we'll say video involved. You don't have to go full Gayle King. You don't have to have somebody super. Would it be who would you want to sit down with that you want more answers for, and they have to drink truth serum before they go on with you? And it's a engaged, long conversation. And I'm putting you on the spot a little bit here. Do you want a second to think about a few? I can do a live read.
No. I mean,
Okay.
I do think. I mean, we were talking about the governor's. I mean, I think everyone
Is it him?
still wants.
Yeah, some answers.
I wanna-
To really talk to him
Yeah.
about it. And
Yeah.
also, I'm just really curious what he's doing now.
Yeah, I was sent. A
Is it not the
picture of
most
him in
Navy
Columbia,
SEAL thing in
Missouri.
the world for him to literally almost have disappeared?
Yeah.
Right.
That is
Well,
such a
that-
SEAL thing.
yeah.
But no, to that point, how do you?
I would like to be Gayle King though. Like, I mean,
That was
that
pretty.
interview.
Can you
Could
give
you have
me a-
handled that? Did you
my-
think? How would you
Okay.
have? Because we
I-
talked about that.
My full name's Christopher. I'm getting out of hand. You're Gayle King. I'm standing up. What do you do?
Christopher.
That's good.
Well, first
That's
off,
good.
I'm sorry.
That's good.
I feel silly, but I did not know his name was Robert,
Mm-hmm.
and that was just like Robert. I mean, it was just like so iconic. Like,
Yes.
Yes. Sit down.
We heard all of our moms. in
Yes,
that. And we was like,
absolutely.
We
Your
did.
mom and your grandma, like
Yes.
your aunts,
Mm-hmm.
like yeah, that was. We all have been talking about that interview because most of the time we're not on camera while we're doing the interview. So
Right.
sometimes there are things that people say, and I'm like, what?
Right.
I don't want to go too behind the scenes. There was something that we had talked about that Alexis had covered as well. You can do the math on what it is. But we had a private conversation, and the honesty in that conversation, I wish we could just put that out into everything, because when
always.
when you're dealing with real reporters, you got to be like, off the record, okay, okay, off the record.
Sometimes my fiance uses off the record.
Nice.
I wish I didn't respect your there are like 50 ways I could act. This would be so good to
He
talk
works for a
about.
construction company.
That's
and
hilarious.
So, talking to me, he's like, well, off the record.
Off the record.
And you go, she's always got a pen and a pad. Like, you sure? Sure?
I can see you throwing down your notebook like, shoot.
That was my big
That was
scoop.
going to be it.
Yeah, it's
She's gonna bilk her fiance.
That's
for a
hilarious.
tip.
He says off the record with
It
you.
was
That's
funny.
great.
Well, and actually, it reminds me when I first started, I mentioned my dad's a lawyer. And so when my first week on the job, we were at a baseball game and he was talking, he's a criminal defense attorney, and he was on the phone with a client, and it was a kind of a big story that our station was covering. And I was like, we were going to the Cardinals game. I was standing behind him in line, and I was like, do you want me to step back and not listen to you? And he's like, well, you're not going to use any of this. I'm like, no, but
am I?
but I could, it could help me figure out maybe who I should go talk to.
Right.
So it was this conversation that we
Interesting.
had to have of okay, yeah, obviously we can't, use each other in that, interview aspect. I can't ever interview my dad.
Right.
But my coworkers could.
Sure.
If he has a big client or a big story or something like that, and he's had interviews, with other stations, he'll call me up and be like, well, Channel 5 wants to interview me. I'm like, that's okay. You can,
Okay.
like I said, we're all friends here.
Has that drastically affected all your relationships? Like being
Probably
a reporter,
not. No.
your friends are like, girl, I got to tell you this story, but I don't trust your ass. Well, how does that?
Everybody gets quiet. when
Everybody
Alexis
get
comes
quiet.
in
I'm
the
like,
room.
let me tell you what. Hey, Alexis, that's Gar.
We were
girl,
talking to
good.
Michael Yo about that. Michael Yo, he's a stand-up now, but he was saying when he would be backstage at award shows, he said Rihanna clammed up and was just like, because he was.
It's actually more so people want you to cover stuff that you can't really cover,
interesting.
the bake sale that their kid is doing.
Aw.
That is so St. Louis.
And
Hey,
people.
man, I got a kickball tournament this Saturday. I'm just saying, y'all should send somebody out.
People pitch it so
Yeah.
hard to
And
they're
I
like,
feel
and here's what
bad.
you could do, and here's why it would be funny, and it's like that doesn't sound very funny. I don't know.
And for me, because I work the 10 o'clock show, we cover very hard news at 10 o'clock. I don't cover features.
Right.
So I can say it's not going to be something I cover, but let me send you to Steve Harris, who's our morning show reporter who covers all the fun, kooky things.
Right.
So there's always somewhere.
Okay,
I can
that's a good
send
out.
them.
That's
and now
nice.
actually it is nice with the podcast. I get to do some more of that stuff. I get
Different
to-
muscle, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. It's not all doom and gloom. Like it is most nights at 10.
Right.
It's definitely a lot more fun, and I get to really showcase the positive side of our city on the show.
Quick reminder: Gateway Powder Coating sponsoring the show. Check them out at gatewaypowdercoat.com. Let's talk about the podcast.
Yeah.
Meet St. Louis.
Yes.
100,000 downloads.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Coming in
So-
here peacocking.
I know. It's a good week. So JJ, who's the producer, he came to me last summer and was like, do you want to do a podcast on food and drink in St. Louis? Because he knows that's just kind of my jam.
JJ
You know.
Bailey has been associated with. Why do we know him? He does Cardinals reporting.
He does
Yeah,
Cardinals
he's down at the
He's
reporting.
ballpark
buddies with
all the
you,
He did.
Hockman, Frederickson, all those guys. Yeah,
He's
yeah.
all over the place.
Yeah.
Actually, it was really funny. For a long time, he went to Mizzou, so he knew a lot of friends that I had in Knoxville. And they're like, oh my God, you work with JJ. I'm like, I don't know who this JJ person is. I've never met them before. I have never seen them in the newsroom. And it's because he was always traveling or
Right.
Sure.
at the stadium. And, I really was like, I don't know who this JJ person is, which is funny now that we do the podcast together. But so he came up to me, he was like, do you want to do a podcast? I'm like, sure. I have no idea how to do a podcast.
Right.
I've listened to Serial. That's about my experience with a podcast. And he's like, great. I'd like to launch it in 3 weeks. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to Greece in a week. He goes, okay, so let's get an interview this week and I'll edit it while you're in Greece and we'll launch it July 1st. I'm like, what? Okay.
Okay.
So thankfully, I've got a lot of contacts in the food world in the city
Right.
just because I like to eat and I like to go out to eat. So we got Gerard Kraft on for the first episode.
That's a good one.
Which was a great get.
Right out
we
the
knew
gate.
We wanted
Nice.
to try to really get a power hitter on.
Right.
And he was awesome and we chatted and it was a great episode and then it just kept going from there. And
So is it all just what you're interested in? I'm sure people reach out. I
Yeah.
mean, what?
That was an exciting thing when people started reaching out and being like,
Nice.
hey, can I come on the podcast?
It's a
Or-
good and a bad thing, isn't
Yeah,
it? Because
yeah.
I don't like telling people no, but I also don't like to sit for an hour and not care about the subject matter
Totally.
or anything about that.
I mean, the nice thing is, I have a notebook that I just keep all my ideas of people, to
I
people
told you,
that reached
carries it
out.
around.
I do. It's in my purse right now. And, of episode ideas. And, we really felt like a responsibility to ensure that we had a diverse group on the podcast, from food to drink to things to do, but also parts of the city. We wanted people in North City to South City to St. Charles to the Illinois side. And so that was really important. We wanted, men and women, and we just wanted to ensure that it was a diverse group.
Right.
Which was interesting because at first, like, the episodes that had women on them weren't doing as well. And I was getting so frustrated. I'm like, what the heck? Do we have sexist listeners? Like, why aren't our women episodes doing well? And it's definitely evened out over time. I think it really just depends on who the guest is.
It definitely does. And you could have somebody, sometimes it just floors me. We'll have the biggest names in comedy on, and it's like, it's not that much different of a jump. And then you'll have somebody on locally or something, and it's like a big spike. So you're always fighting for people's time budget.
Absolutely.
If you're up against WTF or you're up against Serial, like you said, you might lose that battle, but maybe they'll pick it. That's the beauty about podcasts and things like yours. Listen 2 months from now.
Absolutely. And ours stay really relevant. I feel like,
very well produced.
Well, thank you. Well, that's all on JJ, because I just do the talking and setting up the interviews. So, but yeah, it's just really fun, and it's an exciting opportunity to get to have those long form conversations. With the news, normally I talk to someone for 5-10 minutes, and then that's condensed down to a 1:30 story. So that means that interview really gets about 30 seconds. So with the podcast, it's nice to be able to just talk to people for 30 minutes.
The St. Louis food scene is kind of like the gem of the social scene here in St. Louis.
Awesome.
And from the time of course, growing up in St. Louis, what have you noticed in some of the changes? Because coming back to St. Louis, one thing that has blown me away is the food scene.
Absolutely.
And how, compared to other cities, it's up there. It continues to grow. And I want to say there are, a few Beard Award nominees recently.
6 chefs,
if I'm not mistaken.
And one of our cocktail bars, Planter's House.
So it continues to explode. So can you talk about the current scene right now?
Yeah, that's tough too. Like, you go to LA and it takes you an hour to go from USC to the Comedy Store or something in downtown.
You can go one block.
And then you're gonna triple pay for everything. Like, that's the part where if you were coming in with just a clean conscience on St. Louis and you were shown if you listen to the Meet St. Louis podcast and you picked places like that, that's really hard to beat as far as our options, cost, all that stuff.
We're so lucky. I mean, there's so much growth with the food scene. There's just people doing incredible things, and they are getting noticed nationally.
Right.
Food and Wine keeps putting us on lists. I mean, whatever people think about Yelp just put us as the number 2 food city in the country.
Oh, wow.
So it's exciting time. And it's funny because when I left St. Louis, I was like, get me out of the city. Like, there's nothing to do.
Right.
Nothing, actually was really, I loved going to live music when I was in high school. And I just kept feeling like nobody comes here. And that's why I can't wait to go to LA. And then I think I went to maybe 6 concerts all of my 4 years.
I was going to say, what was your favorite concert you went to growing up?
Oh, a couple. Saves the Day and The Killers at the pageant. Both were up there with.
Nice.
At your funeral. You love that
Yes.
song, don't you? Rock's Tonic's Juice
Boy,
Bag.
I do love that band you speak of.
Can you emulate the Saves the Day singer?
No, I don't think I can.
Don't
and
put
I
her on
wouldn't.
the- He's a
He has
reputable journalist, man.
He has a very unique high voice.
I was a little bit like a punk emo kid in middle school
I love
and
it,
high
yeah.
school.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little bit.
This is
Were
hilarious,
you-
and I am
are you-
absolutely hitting up your
You're-
parents now for
I
You're
had
younger
pictures.
than- did you ever-
pink hair in middle
Pink
school.
hair.
Oh, that is outstanding.
Mama Zotos, can we please
Right.
email C. Denman at We Are
And at
Live Radio.
Ladue, no less, just rolling
Oh,
around in your
God,
emo
it's
fit at
so-
Ladue.
It's so embarrassing. To,
Really? Did you ever get to make it to either one of the creepy crawls? You're younger, so maybe you didn't.
That
So
sounds familiar.
it was down the
but-
street, and it's like that. That's where Story of the Year kicked their
I
life
mean, I went to
off.
Point Fest
man.
several years. I mean, I saw
Yeah.
Story of the Year a couple times at Point Fest.
Sure. I
Yeah.
want to see pink-haired Alexis Zotos. That's
God,
fantastic.
I am so glad Facebook was not around in
right.
middle
Thank
school.
God, every day.
And I mean, I got Facebook my senior year of high school, and even then, it was still pretty new, and you didn't really use it all that much. And,
Right.
Oh man, thank goodness. I mean, hey, because you had just digital cameras, so your photos were terrible. They were all
Yep.
blown out because it's just this giant flash. So
Right.
the pictures were bad.
There
The
was
hair was bad.
There was a seismic shift. Facebook went from drunk college pictures that 3 people see and you barely even comment on, to your Aunt Cheryl being like, why didn't you tell me you got a different dog? Like, there's weird things happening on Facebook now that were not happening then.
Well, and it's so funny because, when I talk to high schoolers or middle schoolers, none of them are on Facebook. Like, Facebook is for old people now. Like, they don't use it.
Instagram?
They're
Where
on
are they at?
Instagram, Snapchat. I think there's probably some
Snapchat,
other
that's
ones
scary,
that
yeah.
I don't even know about. And
Probably don't
it's
wanna know
so
about.
interesting because while Facebook is just this massive thing, it's kind of losing itself with the younger generation. And that's really not that long of a time span.
No, it really
to kind
is.
of, like,
No, it's
lose your
very
cool.
fast.
I
It
think
happens
it's because
quick.
too many of your aunts are on it.
Yeah, that's absolutely it.
Too
There's
much
no doubt
trouble
about
with it.
I did want to ask you this. We had Ben Fredrickson in a few weeks ago of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, and I always give him a hard time in his comment sections. Like, I will be the person that will go to his comment section and give him a hard time because that's the kind of friend I am. But I'm curious as to...
He made a joke about, he goes, hey, Bedfred, what are you going to put up? What are you going to do, another slideshow? Like, making fun of him for not being a real journalist.
Yeah.
He got his hand slapped by the guy who runs the Post-Dispatch. He's like, well, sir, here's why we do that. And he's like, hey, bro,
Slideshows get clicks.
Ben,
They do.
Yeah, right.
That's why
Did you see her line up? Did you see her line up?
Because each new slide is a clip.
Exactly.
So I absolutely understand that.
Roger Hensley chewed
He
his
chewed
ass.
me. I was like, Roger, I know Ben. It's a joke.
I'm his friend.
But I'm curious because I love asking this question to my friends in the media, is that what some of the either listener emails or comments that you have gotten? Do you recall one that stands out? You don't have to
Do you
give
take
out,
phone calls at
but
the
I would
station?
imagine you...
I do take phone calls.
My cat deserves a piece on tonight's news.
Oh, man.
Like, how dare you support A candidate or B
absolutely.
candidate, and all you did was, I just covered the city
Yeah.
hall meeting, ma'am. I chose no candidate.
My best days are when both sides are angry at me, or someone's like, "You're
It means you're
supporting
doing your
that
job."
person," and
Yeah.
and then the next person calls like, "You're supporting that person." I'm like, okay, then that I did my
Good.
job in
Right.
that. Oh yeah, the calls at the station are crazy. The worst are of course during weather when you got to interrupt whatever show that they're watching.
Because you control when a tornado is
Right.
coming
Yeah.
through Young and the Restless.
Worst
The
night
best-
ever was Big Bang Theory, the night that I guess whoever was finally having sex. I don't watch the show, but
Can I tell you what? No, are you, Alexis?
He looked at his
I
jacket and
consider
goes,
I
do you
consi-
watch The Big Bang Theory? I'm checking on your coat right
I
now.
consider you a friend, an
I don't know.
associate, and you accuse me of that?
It's like one of the most watched shows.
It
I
is.
don't know a single
I don't know
human
who's
who
watching
watches
that.
it.
I don't either.
No,
I don't
Here,
get it.
here's how. Let me tell you how you may have responded one way. Every single call you should have taken and be like, nerd, and hung up the phone.
See,
Gardner?
there needs to be recordings of these every single time. Like,
yeah.
even if you answer, it has to be recorded. Because the one I always go
I'll
to
do a
online,
podcast on that.
you can make a podcast out of the
Absolutely.
calls.
Absolutely.
And it's there's one from Texas from some years ago, and it's this lady all pissed off, and she's like, "You are interrupting Criminal Minds, the season finale. I don't care about those people in Winnie Pooh and the tornado coming their way." And I'm like, "Oh dear God!"
It really is it's something that we deal with every time we have to interrupt programming, every single time.
Unreal.
And and you have to explain to people, and you got to do it in a nicer
Of
way than
course.
you maybe want to.
Sure.
But yeah, people's lives are on the line, and we don't know where. You just never know. Our meteorologists are incredible, and they can pinpoint a lot. But there's certain things with weather that are just it can take a shift.
Unpredictable, right.
And at the end of the day, our job is to inform people, whether it's about politics or about weather, and that's what we're here for. And I'm sorry that you can't watch so and so
Sheldon.
hook up
Yeah.
with someone.
I want to be on call. I want to be part of one of the TV news' storm mode teams. Not to be on television.
roll up
I
your
want to
sleeves.
come in and take the phone
Oh,
calls.
come on over.
Yeah.
That's what I
would
want
love
to do.
for you to answer the
Now,
question.
here's a without getting too controversial. Would we say each race or demographic in the St. Louis area equally to blame for this? I bet
everybody calls.
Everybody from you. I was like, don't just throw this on Oakville.
No, I
Like,
know.
this is-
I know North City
this is
calls.
this is
Everybody calls. There
Oh,
was
yeah.
a football game one weekend. I don't remember which
Oh,
one.
my.
Oh
And
boy,
they
they just absolutely.
Well, actually, one of the worst ones is when we'll have okay, if we don't want to interrupt your program, but we need to give information, we'll put a little crawl at the bottom of the screen, like weather warning
people
or
get
something.
upset about that.
Oh God! And during golf, because sometimes it'll cover up the.
You're like, Uncle Mark, I know this is you.
So
It's not- I'm not in
we'll get
control.
those calls.
Yeah.
So even when we try to like just put a put a box in the corner or come on just during the commercial, we can't ever please everybody.
Okay,
hilarious.
People
so
like to be angry.
I could talk. I
know
think we
this.
could talk to her for 3 hours,
Yeah,
which
that's
you're
good.
going to have to come back in. Like that's just a fact
Happy
now.
to.
But before we go, check out Meet St. Louis. Check the podcast, subscribe, rate, all that good stuff. It's got so much good information about local businesses, and it's so important that you support folks like Alexis because that helps the entire scene of everything. So with the podcast, have you had a favorite episode or a favorite food or favorite access that you were given because of that? We got to know some kind of morsel.
Some good eats
Gosh,
around town.
I mean, there's so many good
It
eats.
really is.
Or did you go? Have you done the City Museum yet? I can't remember.
I haven't. No,
You
but that's a good one. That'd be a really good one.
Yeah. I bet they'd show her like a secret tunnel or something. Like, yeah.
Oh, that's so hard. I have so many favorite episodes.
Right.
I mean, some of them are just fun because they're just really entertaining people, and it's kind of like this where you just don't even feel the 30, 40 minutes go by.
Right.
Others
been
are
2
just
hours.
really 2 hours. No, it's like I'm gonna be in a podcast.
No, so it's just a super enjoyable
It
experience.
is. I mean, I just like love hearing people's backstories because you go to these restaurants, even like Gerard Kraft, for instance. Like, I've been eating at his restaurants for ages. I still kick myself that I never went to Niche. I regret it so much.
Right.
But hearing his backstory is crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
people should go back and listen to that episode because he's got the craziest life. He was, a snowboarder and he worked his way into a kitchen and kind of talked his way onto the line and then went back down and just randomly came to St. Louis. So there's so many great stories behind, your favorite restaurants that you don't really necessarily get a chance
That's
to know
good. Yeah,
about.
that's a good point.
Very exciting. And you're going to literally walk upstairs and interview
Yeah.
Chris Hansen, friend of ours, partner of ours here at the Kransberg Arts Foundation. I'm looking forward to that one. He's got a lot to talk about
I'm
too.
excited.
so.
It'll be a good episode.
be a lot of fun.
And it'll be on the podcast in a couple of weeks. So.
Awesome. Alexis Zotos on Twitter, right?
Alexis Zotos on Twitter,
Yeah.
Instagram, all the socials. I have the same handle all across the board.
Okay, nice.
You guys
All
will
right.
have a lot of fun following her. Alexis, thank you so much for coming
Thank you
in.
for
Thank
coming
you
in.
guys so
Thank you
much
so
for
much.
having me.
Appreciate it.
Very
Appreciate it.
cool. We're going to take a quick break again. Thanks to Tech Electronics for helping us outfit the studios. Quick break. We'll be back with Fair or Foul.
We are live, live, live. We are live, live, live. We are live, live, live. We are live.
Welcome back to We Are Live. Huge thanks to Alexis Zotos from KMOV and the Meet St. Louis podcast for stopping by. Absolute treat. If you missed that, go back and download on iTunes or wherever you get your stories. Travis, my stories in my ear.
Your
We've
ear
got-
stories? I got ear stories.
We are rocking out the journalist interviews. We're getting some nice feedback on those. So thank you guys for being a part of that by tuning in and listening to those. Real quick, before we get to Fair or Foul, I got to tell you about Tommy Bannister. Familiar with him, Trav?
Oh, am I? I'm
Tommy
familiar with
Bannister
that sexy Bitmoji of his.
Dropped off some stickers that By Jack made yesterday at that very office. If you ever
Nice.
go into the Circa Properties offices, you'll feel right at home. Very cool. There's a dog hanging out in there. You can go see Tommy at Circa Properties. They are here to sell or help you purchase a home. Tommy Bannister works with us. That means you need to hit him up when it's time for any real estate needs. That's Tom Bannister at Circa Properties. He grew up right here in St. Louis. Lots of experience with the networks you need to be a part of. Lots of experience working with homeowners, and customer service is his #1 priority. Be sure to hit up Tom Bannister when it's time to buy or sell your home here in St. Louis, Missouri.
Guys, we have a little bit of breaking news. We have discovered that the woman that was attacked by the Jaguar, her name is Leanne. That should completely close the book. She was indeed a white woman.
I was praying for Hispanic.
Wait. Leon?
Leanne.
Like A-N?
Leanne. Yeah.
Lee, she's Asian.
No, she's not. Not even at all. By the way,
Leanne.
she says while it was her fault, the zoo needs to improve their security measures. You don't get more white woman than that.
She's not taking responsibility for that?
Come on, man. What did I just say? What did I just say? Take more responsibility. Who did I just say the woman was? Take more responsibility. Yeah.
What if her name was Janisha? How would she respond?
She wouldn't have gotten no. First of all, Janice ain't going to no damn.
She'd have stuck that cat.
She ain't going to no damn zoo in March. Get the hell out of here. She'll wait till the Dippin' Dots are out. Then maybe she'll show up to the zoo. but she ain't going to the zoo.
We're getting called out for not including Alexis in Fair or Foul. Is that fair? Listen,
There's a reason why we made sure she left the room. She should have no parts whatsoever
she is
with
reputable.
this mess of a show.
She has a job with a salary.
Right.
Things are expected
She
of
has
her.
a career, a future,
Right.
a fiance, and family that love her.
Yeah.
We do not want to ruin that whatsoever.
Not with your-
us, on the other hand.
Yeah,
We
it's over.
struggle with a lot, mostly drinks.
Really? Let's say 2/3.
Yeah, drinks. That's my thing.
Used to.
Used to. Gardner's done well. 6 years strong, my friend.
Almost.
Almost
Not
6.
there yet.
Are we having a graduation party?
For
6 years.
Doctorate in sobriety.
why? Just so I could. It's more of a doctorate in misery. You're aware of everything.
Have you gotten in on the CBD stuff at all?
Considered it. They just opened a joint in the West
Nice
End.
joint. Nice. Do you? I recommend the seltzer. It's a good one. It's good for the back.
Actually, it's a good business model for people to start putting those CBD businesses in for when they do go and allow they legalize marijuana throughout, like recreational use,
THC.
because then you can just switch it all out.
Yeah.
So the key is for those that have the business model to open a CBD
place.
now. So then you just hit
Just
hit it running.
transition
Yeah,
once it goes over to you.
that's what you need to do.
You're
But
correct.
I am going to check it out. It's on Euclid. Olive Store used to be there. I'm going to go.
I'm curious to see the Gardner that appears on the opposite end of the CBD. I'm looking forward to that.
What is it? CBD and Cranum?
Kratom.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kratom.
I will say that for being the alternative to THC, can you hire some kids that aren't high all the time? The places I've been into,
That gives it validity.
That, I'm
It
about to
is
say,
credibility.
It is
what
the
You
funniest
want to
thing
go
you've
into
ever
a
seen.
shop and
Hey,
they're
man.
sober?
Hey, dude.
Well,
they're trying to take this intellectual approach from it, and then they spout off on
It
this.
is
like,
intellectual.
this-
Don't man, you got to
this
disparage
half-
in the industry
they-
right now. I
they-
need you to hold
they
up.
give you this half like shamanistic freaking explanation
Ooh, that's
of
good. I
what's
like that.
happening.
Good one. Now, like somebody-
as they rub
has
their
been listening to
crystal.
Marin.
So there's a
You said
prevailing
crystals? Who said crystals?
there's a prevailing theme around the office that all my talking points come from either Mark Maron, Adam Carolla, or Joe Rogan, and they're right. But
I put my own spin on them.
occasionally I listen to some NPR podcasts.
Oh boy, it's not as original as Fair or Foul. Almost caught you off guard there, didn't I? Did I catch you?
At this
Oh!
change has come to America.
People often ask me, what's fair or foul? Is it a segment? Is it a movement? Is it hope? I can't say for certain. Time will be a true test of its power. But I can say, Fair or Foul is now and forever for the people. Gather around the radio with your loved ones and hold on to your butts. It's now time for Fair
We give it back to you, the people.
This broke
or
ass segment.
Foul.
We give you a topic. You email in things on it. We excused our reputable guest for this. She is in no way associated with this segment.
At all.
Save the calls and the drama for Trav's mama.
There you go. Hey, wait, what?
That was nice.
That was inappropriate.
That was
Yeah.
good. It was good delivery.
Who gave you that one? Corolla, Marin, or Rogan?
Chris just quits the show. Just walks out of the studio.
Yeah, here's what's going on. Did you know we've been on Adam Carolla's podcast?
I don't know if you guys knew that. Twice.
Mark Maron has said my name.
Did he really? In a pod?
I booked Ian on the show, and
Yeah.
then he gave us a plug for the
Played
Send Up
the
On show.
clip for you on the radio show.
Oh, yeah, that's
Fool.
right.
We've been on Joe Coy's podcast. Did you know that?
That is true.
We will never be on Joe Rogan's podcast.
I was on the scenario with Matt Whitener and Daryl. So
I
You
did
won't be
pass-
on Rogan's podcast unless you do something very, very terrible.
incredibly terrible. Absolutely terrible. It's the only way we get on Rogan.
Was that the first time you said the N-word on TV?
That's exactly how that interview will go.
Travis sitting there.
Should have known. Should have known.
Do you feel good about the topic today?
I now feel awful
Listen.
because we had a reputable journalist in here. So now I feel we should have thought that through. We should have probably thought that part through. But I'm excited. This is a good topic. This is important because these are the people who are truly oppressed in this country, and they need a place to go to eat.
Listen, I literally grew up on a farm. I don't care how you vote. That's perfectly fine. This is some snowflake shit. Like this, an app. Is it okay for me to wear my hat?
I don't know.
Why don't you man up and do it? You got truck nuts on your truck.
Thank
you got
you.
Yosemite Sam
Thank
telling
you.
people to back off.
Thank you. How you going to be the same people to say leave this country, but you can't even go into another restaurant?
I'm saying, like, if you want to wear the hat, I'm not going to get mad at you.
Right.
Wear it.
the hat. Now I'm going to slap the shit out of you, but that's beside the point. I just,
It's okay, people. He's only got 2 swings.
My
So
grandpa-
if you can duck one,
if you're lucky.
Yeah.
If I got
My
two.
grandpa used to wear a Bob Evans hat into Bob Evans
That is nice.
because his name is Bob Evans. He thought it might help us get a good table.
Did it ever work?
No, we were sitting at the counter. They were always busy.
Coincidentally, Travis would be asked to,
Well,
not sit at the
But
counter.
he would go up to, and put the reservation in, like, if we're waiting in line. Bob Evans, party of 3, and he'd, like, look around and see if anyone look at him.
And everybody's like, whatever, pal.
Yeah, you don't.
That was like
It's like wearing your own jersey.
that was like me.
Todd McDonald's, your McDonald's is up. Okay, pal.
That's
Nice
why
try.
at Mardi Gras, Travis kept getting weird looks whenever he kept standing by the banner with his face on it. He's like,
I did that a lot.
You were my grandpa.
all right, we
is this
asked you
song
what
for?
you
Oh, yeah.
thought about MAGA-friendly restaurant app. Again, not all restaurants can be. All right, here we go. You guys ready for this?
Let's do it.
$10 to Buzz's Hawaiian Grill. We got to get Alexis to go check out Buzz's.
Definitely. That'd be,
Let's
that'd
hook
be
her
a
up.
good interview.
Yeah.
Definitely.
He's a great guy.
He's got a great
family
story,
guy.
too.
Yeah, he does. Wish Buzz did this show with me. Fair. What would we be? Aloha in the hick?
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, Dave. What's going on, man? Welcome to We Are Live. How are you?
Aloha. I don't know how people
Oh,
speak.
God.
I don't
Bad.
know. I don't. I've never been to.
Is
the
my
States. That's just horrible.
how's my southern drawl? Hanging in there?
Uh-huh.
That's pretty good.
Still standing
Pretty
tall in the
solid.
pocket?
Uh-huh.
All right, dude. Let's read this. MAGA. Here you go. Fair. That way it makes it easy for me to get to the new Rascal Flats restaurant. TT's pink eye.
That's
Do you
outstanding.
think Alexis will cover that
The-
on Meet St. Louis?
I think.
I don't think it'll be as big as the IKEA opening, so I don't know.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Life may be a highway.
We've got Chopper 7 over the IKEA. There are meatballs, fashionable yet economically viable furniture. We'll be here all day. Fair. I thought Cracker Barrel already had an app.
Told you.
Triangle Assassin.
Told you.
Gotta love the listeners. Keep it moving. Fair. I'm actually throwing my hat in the ring, which is it a MAGA hat you're throwing into the ring? Hat in the ring to their marketing director. I've already got the advertising campaign planned. Our spokesman, because having a woman speak is dumb, is going to be a hologram of Fred from Dirt Cheap, Bleep, Beer, and Liquor. His tagline for the spots for the app will be "Home of the Persecuted Diner." That was a great tagline.
That was good.
Rest in peace, Fred. Also, we're going to get a coyote mascot, put it in a bathing suit, and have it say things. Trump, Trump, fun, fun. Just remember, the less she eats, the better she'll look. JVL Jackal.
And believe it or not, coyotes.
Coyote, specifically. Actually, yes. Wile E. Coyote, to be exact.
I was once in the car with Travis Marvis Morell, and we saw a coyote. I've never in my life, Glenn Close, Leonardo DiCaprio, not one actor could pull off the genuine fear and upset nature.
Oh, God, we're going to die.
A 30-pound coyote on the side of the road.
Mind you, Chris is driving,
Oh, by
on
the way,
highway.
I saw it 2 miles before you saw it.
And
I saw that thing, and I had pre-made I was watching his walk line. I was like, I'm gonna avoid this. It'll be fine. And then Travis loses it when we're a foot away from it.
Oh, Negro, was that a coyote?
Yes. I didn't know they slinked around like
I mean,
that.
that's West County, cuz. What the hell is this?
Foul. Isn't this app redundant? You just look for the place that has trucks with nuts on them,
There it is.
peanuts on the floor, or anything that Rascal Flats puts their name on.
Poor Rascal Flats getting
Cankles.
pulled into this.
Yeah. What did they ever do? Did we
They
decide?
probably voted for Gary Johnson. They're all like,
Yeah.
we had nothing to do with any of this election.
That'll do it for submissions for today.
Life is a highway. I want to ride it all night long.
Gardner, who are you voting for?
I like the first one. Who was the first one?
First one,
TT's Pink Eye.
TT's.
I'll go with
Pink Eye.
TT's Pink Eye.
I as well will go with TT's Pink Eye. I
TT's
enjoyed
Pink
that.
Eye, you have won $10 to Buzz's Hawaiian Grill. Check out the Facebook page for their daily locations. It's getting warm, people.
It's getting there. We're getting a little bit closer each and every day. We're getting almost close to 45 degrees.
Massive thank you to all of you for tuning in live. If you're new to watching, tell some people about us. We love whenever people share this. We have great guests on all the time. Massive thank you to the very talented Alexis Zotos from KMOV and Meet St. Louis. Really appreciated her appearance today. Very insightful and really enjoyed that a lot. So check it out. The rest of this week, we have a couple comics coming in. We've got more segments. We're going to do a new Travu that'll air next week. So check out weareliveradio.com for all the blog posts and follow all our socials. Huge shout out to all our sponsors and support them as well. Trav, great show today. Gardner,
fun.
great show. We're back tomorrow live at 8 a.m. on the Facebook live stream. Share the podcast with a friend, people.
Peace.